Religious visions have been witnessed by many people throughout time. However, very few have been endorsed directly by the church. Furthermore, very few have been witnessed by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and documented with photos over a course of several years. In today's episode, we will examine an extraordinary case of a religious miracle that occurred in the suburb of Zeitoun, just outside Cairo, Egypt, beginning in 1968. On April 2nd, 1968, two bus mechanics saw a woman dressed in white on the roof of St. Mary's Coptic Church. Initially, there was a general concern as people began to gather and believed it was a nun contemplating suicide. As the police arrived, they attempted to disperse the crowd and claimed it was just a reflection from the street lamp. However, it soon became evident that this was not the case. A church custodian arrived and suggested the figure was the Virgin Mary after the figure appeared to levitate. After a few minutes, the apparition disappeared, but little did they know this story was just beginning. On April 9th, 1 week later, the Virgin Mary would reappear, and again, she was visible for only a few minutes and only at night. After that time, sightings became more frequent, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. As more people witnessed the event, this garnered the church's attention. The Patriarch of the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria, Pope Kyros VI, appointed a committee of high-ranking priests and bishops to investigate the case. The investigation was led by Bishop Gregorios, Bishop of Postgraduate Studies, Coptic Culture, and Scientific Research. After the investigation concluded, on May 4th, Pope Kyros VI issued an official statement confirming the apparitions. Also witnessing the apparitions were the nuns of the Society of the Sacred Heart. They would send a detailed report to the Vatican, and in response, the Vatican sent a team to investigate. They too would witness the event and notify Pope Paul VI. More witnesses would see the apparition, and seemingly it appeared several times a week and sometimes for hours at a time. Fascinatingly, the actual form of the apparition varied each time, which led many to believe deception could not have been involved. She sometimes floated, and sometimes only her head could be seen, while other times her whole body was fully visible. Also, there were instances where birds were present, which were interpreted as doves of peace. After some controversy over whether they were live birds or actually apparitions, detailed examination of the photographs revealed that they were live birds. As word spread, many people made pilgrimages to the church from around the world. Some people allege that seeing the apparition cured their lifelong diseases, such as blindness. One other high-profile witness who saw the apparition himself was Egyptian President Gamal Abdul. Abdul was a lifelong Marxist with nothing to gain by confirming the apparition, yet he saw it and verified it. Investigations by the church would not be the only ones performed. The police did some too and could find no apparent explanation. No device was found within a radius of 15 miles capable of projecting the image. Also, it should be noted almost all the photographs taken were by independent photographers, so altering them doesn't seem like a likely explanation. Since there was no alternative explanation and approval from religious and political officials, the Egyptian government accepted the apparitions as true. One interesting thing to note surrounds the church itself. St. Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church was built in 1923 because of a vision that landowner Tafik Kahil Abraham had. One night in a dream, the Virgin Mary told him to build her a church in Zeitoun. If Tawfik did as she asked, Mary promised to reappear at the church in 40 years. Cynthia Nelson, a professor of anthropology at the American University in Cairo, visited the church on several occasions. She claims she didn't see the exact Virgin Mary apparition, but said there was some sort of light on top of the church. She also noted that there was no apparent source that could have caused this, as the streetlights had been out for weeks. As time progressed, and the apparition would disappear for good 3 years later in 1971, several other theories have been proposed as to what this could have been. John S. Durr and Michael Persinger proposed the lights were caused by tectonic strain theory. This idea is that the occurrence of earthquakes causes the appearance of strange lights. One interesting fact is that Zeitoun did see some tectonic activity prior to the events of 1968 to 1971. It's plausible then that the source of the lights could have been from this seismic activity. Appearances of the lights could only occur at night though. Still, tectonic strain theory cannot explain exactly how it caused the events, although it's interesting to note that the Virgin Mary apparition only appeared at nighttime. Tectonic movements certainly seem like a plausible explanation. We see this with something like the Garden light in Kentucky, a light that appears in the sky consistently, but no one knows the exact source of it. Other skeptics will point to the fact that most of the photos, even though they were taken by independent journalists, are very blurry, and that the church and the government may have been under overwhelming pressure to acknowledge the event was true. After all, it united Egypt and people of all faiths, which is something not easy to do. At the time, the country was in the middle of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Tensions ran high in the country, mostly Muslim, and home to a minority of Christians. Still, believers will say that something was appearing and will point to the overwhelming evidence in the case. It's been said hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, saw the apparition. There are hundreds of photographs, albeit many were faked due to the high price photos commanded. In 1968, though, there was no technology that could have faked this. Something did indeed happen on top of that church. Was it the Virgin Mary, or was it simply mass hysteria? We will probably never know, and the answer to the question will remain a perplexing mystery.